Welcome back. The LSK presidential debate continues right here. I can tell you a lot was happening while we were on that break. Hopefully some of those issues will come up as the debate continues. Now, some of those in the last couple of days who've been asked about the LSK, its past and its present, say that the LSK has lost some of its former glory. They say that because of tribalism and interference by political parties, that those are some of the key issues that the LSK faces at this time. With 2 days and counting to that LSK presidential election, I want to ask each of the candidates here today whether they are affiliated to or a member of a political party. Natson Havi, I want to begin with you.
I'm not affiliated to any political party. I'm not affiliated to the state. I do not hold any office in a board, a tribunal, or a council. And in fact, in my manifesto, I've sworn undertaking, swearing that whilst in office as president of the Law Society, I will continue serving the society without derogation, without conflict of interest, and with focus to the affairs of the advocates and the Kenyan public at large.
Thank you. Harriet, same question to you.
Thank you, Wahiga. Let me confirm that I do not belong to any political party. And my leadership will be very objective. I want to believe I'm a good friend of Citizen TV, and I've been here quite a lot of times. And my discussions have always been very, very objective. One of the key things I want to point out is that it's important that the Law Society of Kenya president sits in the designated boards that are put aside for the president of the Law Society of Kenya. And one of them is the ODPP. So those boards, for me, are very important, that if you're not part of a team that is making rules and guidelines, that is shaping policies in this country, then you're the menu that is being eaten.
Thank you.
And for me, it's important.
Thank you. Your 1.5 minutes is up. Charles? Are you affiliated to or a member of?
I think it's so easy to say no. All of us will say no. Myself, I've never been affiliated in any way to a political party, neither institutionally nor otherwise. But I think members are asking a further question. Is there a perception or an appearance based on the way any of the four candidates here have behaved or engaged in the past, that they may be affiliated to a particular political party? That was my next question, but you've already started it, so I'll give you another 30 seconds to answer it. And that really is a question that members want to hear. And I think each of us can make our judgments, but I do know that the members of the legal profession and even the members of the public have that assurance about Charles Kanjama, not even the perception of affiliation to any political party. I have jealously guarded my independence, my objectivity, and I think that is very necessary, together with integrity, for the next leader of the Law Society of Kenya. Thank you. Advocate Medeka, same question to you.
Yep, I do not belong to any political party, and I do not subscribe to any political party. I think it's important to highlight the role of the president with regard to whether or not they have upheld their mandate as a head of the LSK. And that's the question here. What is the role of the president when it comes to matters law, advising the government, advising the judiciary, and advising the public? Whether or not you belong to a political party is a constitutional right. But that should not cloud your judgment as president, because your mandate is to protect the rule of law. So it should never come out in your mandate and your carrying out of your mandate on behalf of the members and on behalf of the public. That should never be at the forefront of your decision making. It should not influence the decisions that you make or the decisions of the Law Society.
Okay. My next question could be to any of you, whoever will be first to indicate to me that they're ready to answer it. What do you say to those who say that political parties have played quite a role in dividing previous LSK regimes and taken away its independence? You're free, any of you, to answer that question. I can start and say that in a previous council, we did see... Is it true? Maybe it's where I should have begun. It has happened on occasion. The question is the degree. But the question as to whether it has ever happened, the answer is yes, it has. Lawyers are also members of society. We also have political views, sometimes very deep and embedded political views. Our leaders also. And it has happened. I do recall a previous council where
the president and the vice president issued conflicting statements during the time of the 2017 general election. That is a reality. It did happen. And those facts actually, or those issues, weaken the Law Society of Kenya.
Okay.
The Law Society of Kenya needs a leader who's clearly non-partisan politically.
Fair enough. And because I want to give the others a chance, I want to interrupt you there. One last thing. Your first statement, you said that everybody knows that Charles Kanjama, unlike others, has
I didn't use unlike others. And I think what I would like to say is this.
Is there anyone you suspect to have been politically affiliated, whether here or outside, or in previous regimes?
Among my competitors here?
This is an open space. They are here to defend themselves if what you're saying is not true?
I think if you ask the question of each of my competitors, whether they have ever publicly associated themselves or affiliated with a particular political party or politician publicly, or receive political funds, whether in the LSK campaign or elsewhere,
yes,
they should be able to answer honestly that question.
And you've said no.
In my case, a clear, unequivocal no.
Harriet?
Let us agree that when you look at the past, and Kanjama has highlighted clearly, you cannot run away from the fact that either the executive or the opposition has had a hand in the society.
Did they have a hand when you were vice president, which you are till Thursday, I believe?
I can speak for myself. I am not affiliated to any political party, and I cannot say that about any other council member or the president of the Law Society. Where the accusation has always been drawn to, it is for them to speak for themselves. But it is important for us to note that lawyers shape the policies and political climate of this country, and we must participate. Whether or not I have political friends, we have so many lawyers who sit in parliament. So it is a lie for us to actually say that we cannot associate ourselves even with our own members who are sitting in parliament or who are even at the Senate.
Okay.
And it's important we engage with our members both in government and in the political space.
Okay, I want to give Javi a brief reaction. Do you have?
Yes, I'm the only freshman here. I've never been in council before, so that allegation cannot be made against me. But let me state what three of our colleagues have said about the current council. Samuel Gwantai from Embu said that the leadership of the society is beholden to the state. They will not come out to speak when the state or those who are behind the election into office take an action that is detrimental to the rule of law and constitutionalism. Senior counsel Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria said that there is a cozy relationship between the current leadership of the Law Society and the state.
A cozy relationship.
A cozy relationship.
You did define how cozy. Cozy has varying degrees, some would say.
Well, let me conclude by quoting what senior advocate Mbabu said, that there is a big concern when thugs come to award your guard. And it is in the backdrop of all these statements that you must interrogate how the council has behaved in the last 2 years.
Advocate, you can't just say thugs here and not tell us who are these alleged thugs.
No, I was quoting. You see, in
Did
law...
you ask them what they meant by that, or you just took it at face value and came to national TV to talk about it?
Let me interpret. Ideally, as senior advocate Mbabu was referring to the commendations that are being given to current council members, yet they are still in office.
Okay.
I'm sure everybody can be able to interpret that.
You don't want to, commendations by who?
Commendations come in various aspects. Appointments to boards, appointments to tribunals, head of state commendations, amongst many others.
Okay. I will come back to you for more clarification on that. Still not very clear. Advocate Beneka, just anything on what Charles had to say, that the issue of affiliations is a weighty one that has possibly weighed down previous regimes, previous administrations?
Well, I think he's referring to the council that was our predecessor. And that played out in the public gallery. It's not something we can deny. So what it says is that people have political leanings, people have, feel strongly about the political parties they either represent or belong to. But the point is this: when you're sworn in as a council member or as president of the Law Society of Kenya, your mandate is first and foremost to the members of the Law Society of Kenya. So that should not be lost on anybody. So your role is clear, your mandate is clear, and Section 4 of the LSK Act is clear. So how one chooses to exercise their role is really up to their leadership style. But members of the society expect that the president or council members of the Law Society would uphold the provisions of Section 4, which include speaking out on the rule of law, protection and speaking out and protection of members' welfare, and all matters relating to advising the government, advising the courts, and advising the public on all matters law. So that is the role of council, that is the role of the president. Whether or not politics has come into play, that has happened. It should not happen. We must insulate the society from the pressures either of the opposition or the government of the day.
Okay. Thank you for that. I want to switch gears a little bit and bring to the attention of my panelists a survey. I'm sure some of them are already aware of it, that was released back in 2017. This survey was done by the Hill Innovating Justice Group in conjunction with the Judiciary and the World Bank as well. This survey ranked which groups were found as the most helpful sources of legal advice and information to ordinary Kenyans. So ordinary Kenyans were asked which groups were most helpful to you when you are seeking legal advice, and they spoke to policemen, the courts, families, chiefs, etc. And Kenyans basically said that lawyers were the least helpful source, and I hear some laughter in the audience here today, of legal information and advice at 7%. In fact, they said that they preferred to get their legal advice from a family member, the chief, or the police before going to a lawyer. What does this say about the perception of the public towards the fraternity that you want to lead from Thursday? Advocate Kanjama, I think you are the first to speak during the last round, so I'll come back to you on that.
Okay, very well. Thank you, Wahiga. It would be interesting to find out if there was a survey about doctors or engineers. You'd probably find that... You're
not just trying to...
Yes, I'm trying to contextualize.
Take us away from the question instead of...
Yes, I'm trying to contextualize.
Okay.
You'd find that people probably would seek medical advice first from a member of the family before they pay a doctor to give them medical advice, because it's cheaper.
But would the doctor be the last one on the list in their chosen profession?
I think that would be extremely unfortunate. In fact, I would want to interrogate that particular study.
I can send you the link after this.
Yes, please do. What I know is that even that chief, that police officer, or that family member who gives advice ultimately gets the advice from a lawyer. So you may either be getting advice directly or indirectly from a lawyer. But when you get it directly from a lawyer, lawyers are professionals. We charge fees unless you're offering pro bono services. So when you get it indirectly, you kind of like are able to get it cheaper or even free. Unfortunately, when you get advice from a police officer or a chief, and you don't seek maybe competent legal advice from those who've trained and are well established and competent in giving legal advice, there is a lot of opportunity of getting distorted legal advice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wahiga. First, I don't blame the Kenyans for thinking that way. And that for sure I can almost relate it with ignorance. Because you'll agree with me, the reason as to why we have professionals...
You would relate it to ignorance how?
The reason as to why we have professionals is for simple reasons, to offer professional advice. It could also be the reason as to why most of them end up in jail, because they got their advice from quarters who are not even qualified to give that particular advice.
That is a valid point that you've raised, but my question is, why would Kenyans be willing to first go to a family member, a chief, a police officer, the courts, and finally the lawyer? I think that's what I want to understand from you this evening. It's
the same thing. We as lawyers also would easily Google on any issue, including medical, before you see a doctor. It's choice. So it's choice to go and see the professional, or it's choice to have a long length of review of an issue before you get to the final professional. And for me, I don't think that particular assessment is true. And it's also very important for us to note, or rather the members of the public to note, that the legal profession is there for them. And the only reason anyone would not go to the lawyer first could be issue of resources.
Tell me this,
and I would propose,
should you get that seat, in fact, I guess that's where you are going to,
yes.
Should you get that seat on Thursday, one thing you would do differently to improve access to justice or to legal services for members of the public?
I was getting there.
One thing, please.
One thing I'll do is to institutionalize legal aid and work very closely with the county government so that wakilis can take services back to the people. We have to work very closely and retool the legal profession in terms of how we rebrand ourselves. And if the common mwananchi can have easy access to the advocate, then this particular problem will be solved if at all it exists.
Okay,
and
thank you for that.
That is one of the solutions.
That is one of the solutions. Advocate
yes.
Harvey, you can respond to the question of access to justice and why the public would choose to go to so many other avenues before they visit a lawyer. And also your one thing that you promised to implement should you become the president after Thursday's election.
Well, I want to encourage members of the public not to seek legal advice from what we call quacks and unqualified persons. Because, you see, in the category you have enumerated, unless you can identify that the family member is a lawyer, that the chief is a lawyer, that the policeman is a lawyer, then you've taken the wrong tangent in seeking legal advice. We have about 17,000 lawyers in the Republic of Kenya, many of them newly admitted advocates. Why don't we give them the opportunity of rendering these legal services? Why do we have to go to the chief, family members, and policemen?
I was hoping that you who is in that fraternity would answer that question. Why do they not come to you? What do they tell you when they visit your offices?
Well, I'm always accessible, and it will surprise you to note how many times I offer legal advice on Facebook and on Twitter. Until the other time, I had to reiterate one of my key agenda to protect the law practice environment so that the members of the public are able to get value for their money. And if there is incapacity insofar as fees is concerned, we have legal aid which should be able to take care of their interests. But way forward, perhaps if we expand the justice system, if we ensure,
one thing you're promising you'll implement.
If we ensure that we have sufficient number of judges and magistrates, these disputes will easily be resolved through the court system. If we ensure that the executive and the treasury transmits monies allocated to the judiciary, then we'll have functional systems to take care of all the interests. There will be no need for them to go to a family member, to go to the chief, to the policeman, because they will know the courts of law, the lawyers will be able to address their problems adequately.
Okay. You said if all these things happen and they also require the input of the national government, for you as LSK president, should that happen from Thursday, what's your one promise?
My one promise is this. I will ensure that as the Law Society of Kenya, we monitor legislation so that the laws that come out of Parliament are useful for advocates and the public. I will also ensure that we defend and protect the rule of law and constitutionalism. Okay. The reason as to why people will want to go and seek justice elsewhere is because they're dissatisfied with the court, because court orders cannot be enforced. Why is it so? If we take care of these immediate concerns, then the general public will be satisfied with the legal process in Kenya.
Time is up. Thank you for that. Advocate Mudeka.
Well, Higa, I agree with that study. I think we have to pull up our socks in our relationship with the public. As a Law Society of Kenya, we have a legal aid program that we run, which is for 1 week, once a year. Now, if you look at the numbers that come for this legal aid program, and even the requirement to take up a matter and see it through, it is hardly enough. That 1 week is not enough. Yet, we have sister organizations such as ICJ, such as Kituo cha Sheria, such as KNHCR, who are doing the same thing, and our members belong to these organizations. What is it that they're doing different? What, for me, I propose is a way forward, is to have a full-time legal aid program so that our relationship with the public is meaningful. Remembering under Section 4, we have a duty to advise the public. It is through legal aid programs. This can be done by partnering with these organizations. I have actually proposed it in my manifesto point number 6. A full-time legal aid program will improve our interface with the public, because the issue here is access to justice. Because
across the country.
Across the country, because remember, practice and welfare is devolved to the branches. So it goes down to the very practice centers, so that when we are engaging the public, we do it in a meaningful way. We are partnering with organizations. We are partnering with organizations such as ICJ that actually fund these programs. When you go to remand centers for 1 week, what impact do we have? And you see, when you listen to the public, they say for you to see a lawyer, you must open a file. I'm not saying that we need to take work from lawyers, but we must face up to the fact that we have a responsibility to the public.
Advocate Meneka, allow me to interrupt you. Our time is up on that. But before we take that break, I want to ask you this. Why couldn't you have done this as an LSK council member? You have the ear of the president now. You have access to all the structures. Why was that not possible before?
Absolutely. What we did is that we moved away from Nairobi, because previously we used to have legal aid programs in Nairobi, Milimani, Supreme Court, and then perhaps Langata.
Okay.
So we went down to the counties, and personally, I took up this role in the counties, well, at least in the county where I come from, so that we ensured that lawyers actually went to the villages, and they went to the town centers, and the impact was great. This is something that can actually be done.
Till today still say they cannot access legal aid easily.
That is true. But remember, I have said from the beginning, we only have this for a week. But if we were able to have a meaningful engagement throughout the year, so that the public, if you go to Kituo cha Sheria today, you will find the public fully there. They are packed, they're asking for advice on very small, mundane issues for us.
Expand it throughout the year, and you believe that will be the game changer?
That's my promise.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I did not respond on that question of what I would do. So give me a minute to deal with that.
Your minute has been granted. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So in my agenda number 5, I've also spoken of a legal aid program. But I want to say this, that access to legal services is an issue that must take into account 2 dimensions of legal service. One is preventive and one is curative. Lawyers are professionals of human relations. So the first thing we do is we guide human beings, people in society, to enter into relations, understand their rights and duties, to enter into contracts and so on. So in that area, what we need to do is, among other things, to impact on legal education, to members of the public to know when they need to reach a lawyer, where the law firm is, how they can access legal services, and so on. On the area of curative legal services, where you now need to bring in legal aid, let me put it clearly, that when we look at the profession that is, you could say, related to ours, it deals with the human body, medicine, the method of mediating between an indigent patient and the professional doctor who charges fees is through health insurance or medical insurance. That's a globally accepted system. In the case of the legal sector, the globally accepted mechanism that works is legal aid. But LSK cannot do it alone. At LSK Nairobi branch, we've set up the first ever legal aid fund within LSK.
Okay.
But there's no way, even if we get our partners on board, that we'll be able to get enough money to support the indigent litigants who need assistance. So we also need to engage the Attorney General, the State Law Office. There's a Legal Aid Act. There's a National Legal Service Board that is poorly funded. I'm going to do that. I'll engage the government. The judiciary also has...
Your minute is up.
The judiciary also has a pro bono scheme. Again, it's not working very effectively. So as President, what I'll do is I'll do LSK's bid, and I'll also engage other partners, including civil society actors, to ensure that we can strengthen and develop a robust legal aid program.
Thank you, Advocate Kanjama, for that. We're taking another quick break. When we come back, I have 1 or 2 more questions for the panelists, and then I open it up to the audience and to you who's messaging us. Remember, 22422 is the SMS line, and the hashtag is Newsnight. I can also see some choose to use LSK Presidential Debate as another hashtag. Use both. We take that break now. The debate continues on the other side.